Welcome back. This is Daybreak, and thank you for staying with us. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my immediate right is Peter Masara. He's the Member of Parliament representing Suna West constituency and a member of the Budget Committee. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Thanks for finding time for the broadcast. Much appreciated. Senator Richard Onyonka represents Kisii County at the Senate. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning. I'm happy to see you. I've been away for a while.
Happy to see you too.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And Ahmed Haji is governance commentator, joins us this morning as well here on the broadcast.
Ayub, I'm delighted to be back here again. Thank you very much for inviting all of us. Good morning.
Let's begin with a look at the highlights of what's happening in the country. And there is this special report by the papers this morning on how police use phones to track and capture suspects. And this follows a 30-day investigation which exposes how the police access customers' sensitive data, including records, and identify crime suspects in breach of customers' rights to privacy, and how telecommunications companies frustrate justice in cases where security agencies are implicated in cases of extrajudicial killings and enforced disappearances. And this in light of course, what happened in the aftermath of June 25th, when Parliament was breached by the demonstrating Kenya's Generation Z, who were dead against the finance bill then, which was subsequently withdrawn by the government. The commentary for Senator Richard Onyonka. Yes. Disturbing in all sense, draconian measures which played a part in our past dark history is still playing out in our current setup. Parallels that seem disturbing.
Ayub, thank you. This is what worries me. The young people in this country today who are the age of 25, maybe up to 30, may not necessarily remember or understand what actually happened. What is happening here at the national level is something that has happened before. And these events were, in fact, some of the events which made Kenyans rise up and wanted to change, bring in a constitution that will protect human rights, civil rights, make sure that every Kenyan had freedom of expression, freedom of demonstrating. Because that is demonstrating and disagreeing with government is one of the ways on how you allow the public or your public to vent without necessarily wanting to throw away the water and the bucket. And I am just worried because I see our country drifting into that bad behavior. I see my country becoming a country that information that is coming out. And Ayub, I would like to link up what you've asked me with what the president is saying. I just want to tell the president that we are not propagandizing or giving the government a bad name. No, we're just stating the facts. I mean, young people are disappearing. Some of them are being found. All leads lead to the fact that it's government officers who are tracking them down and arresting them. Information that we are receiving is that some of them are being held and killed because they participated in the demonstrations that took place with agency. How can that be propaganda? I mean, you have families who are talking about what's happening at the former Nairobi City Mortuary. You have so many bodies in that mortuary until it's been closed. I mean, it's painful. And yet, these are things that you would wish that our country didn't get back into. Yeah. These bad habits that we've always carried with ourselves historically. The mistreatment of our people, basically dismissing and disregarding what people feel and what they think. When you have people saying we want good governance, then you are targeted and you know what comes out of that. So I want to say that first, the team that did this story, I am very, very happy with them. How I wish that we would have an independent body that would actually begin investigations on this matter. For example, I'll give you a very simple analogy. If these journalists have written, I mean, they have investigated and written this story that there were actually mobile phones which were the people who've been killed, their mobile phones were the ones which were being used to track them down. The reality is that, Ayub, that you can actually track who was with this individual as the last person, because you are going to get on GPS, your phone is going to reflect where you are. The killers who are sent to kill these young men, they were carrying phones, and their phone numbers are known. So again, it comes back to the government. Can the government make sure, first of all, that all these things stop? And number two, I believe that justice has to be served, because this is going to be a blot on President William's Ruto presidency, whatever he does. Thank you.
Honorable Peter Masara, what do you make of this very blatant, flagrant disregard for human rights, given what has happened since June?
Actually, what I want to say is that some people are living in denial. No, it is a long time when people used to be treated the way they are being treated now. With the new dispensation of the 2010 Constitution, and we have the new commissions which are in charge of human rights, and those who are even checking on how the police officers are working, there need to be a big change and a shift on how things are being done today. Okay, the security of the country is important, but the security agencies need to scale up on how they operate. Because it is quite embarrassing to a country with like Kenya still getting such headlines that the citizens of this country are being abducted and some are in mortuaries. What needs to be done is that either we retrain our police officers on how to manage our security, because there are new emergencies. You know, the Gen Zs it's not something we are going to wish away. They are there to stay. Okay, issue of good governance. We have come from far to this stage where people have the right to question what is happening. And that is what is called good governance. When public question how their money is being spent, how they are being governed, that shows the democratic space we have. So I believe some people have not accepted the fact that Kenya is a multi-party democracy. And the multi-party democracy entails the public questioning what is happening. And when they do that, it is their right. And it is in the 2010 Constitution that they have the right to question. When they are doing it in a way which is not pleasing to the government, there are courts. People can be arrested and be charged for offenses the government feel have been committed. But abducting people and killing people without trial is an embarrassment to this country.
How then do you, as a lawmaker, how then do you think we can remedy the situation given the circumstances that we are in? And when the Interior CS, Professor Kithure Kindiki, appeared before the National Assembly Security Committee, he admitted that more than 130 Kenyans are missing and cannot be accounted for. If the government cannot account for its citizens, who will?
That's why I still go back to the 2010 Constitution. We have IPOA. Now this is where IPOA should come out. It is the work of the IPOA to investigate the conduct of police officers, and they are using public money to run their offices. From the time the Minister for Interior talked about people who are missing, have not had a statement, a proper statement from IPOA on the same note. So some of the agencies are failing us as a country. On this, I squarely blame IPOA. Since the minister in charge of security has admitted that there was a problem, where do we run again? It is the work now of IPOA to investigate, to come up and to tell us the culprit, because these people, this crime were done by individuals. This individual maybe got instruction from somewhere. Already the CS Interior has run away and said he was not part of it. Then who gave the instructions?
Okay, and this is what I'm asking then. I hosted Commissioner Waiganjo here, and he decried the frustrations that he has experienced in the context of Nairobi County alone, where he said the regional commander Adamson Mungwe is not cooperating with the efforts to investigate police brutality cases in Nairobi. You parliamentarians are accused of underfunding it. The gross underfunding it is also another problem because there is not enough personnel for it to exercise its mandate across the country. How do you solve those two double problems?
Personally, I'll not agree with Waiganjo. Ayuba was in Security Committee for 5 years. There are some of development which has happened in IPOA we need to appreciate. There were few officers by then, but the last 5 years, I also, a lot of money was invested in IPOA. They were given money to open regional offices, their mobility, their staffs. As we talk now, I believe IPOA is well financed to do this work. Because you remember, what happened in towards the finance bill, majority of activity were concentrated within Nairobi. Majority, most of the things, if I can say so. So it means they can pull their officers who are in areas which were not very active to come to Nairobi to help the IPOA to bring out a report. You need to lament based on a report. Did he provide any good report on even to few 5 or 6 people who have been identified to have participated in this actual abducting of the Kenyan public? Okay,
I'll question you on the budgeting aspect and the personnel vis-a-vis their mandate. Ahmed, how does then the government address this profound trauma and anxiety on the families of missing Kenyans that the government says more than 130?
The father of constitutional government, Montesquieu, said that the greatest tyranny is done under the shield of government or the law. Now, the president has sent a chill throughout the security system, and that chill is connected to State House, where the orders of the police system and the criminal investigation departments are issued. Just yesterday, they let out the People's Watchman, Boniface. And I'm not theorizing. They said that the police kept on saying we got orders from above. You know, that overthrows the very idea of habeas corpus, which is the cornerstone of our Constitution. I thought I was in the struggle to change all these things, and I thought that this would close that book. And it's appalling that the men and women who led that struggle, like Mr. Raila Odinga, who is a de facto prime minister in this country today, supports, accepts, and does not condemn the president's tough hand with security. And I think that the president is given the liberty to deal with the issues of law and order in this country. That's his docket. In fact, when he was being elected, one of his strengths was law and order. But in a constitutional government, law and order has to go through a process. A person is arrested, they're read their rights. Here in Kenya, I don't think we'd still read anybody their rights, that you have a right to a lawyer, you have a right to this, you have a right to this, you have the right not to incriminate yourself, and you have to be produced in court within 24 hours. It seems that now we have a detention without trial light, and I think that it's going to get firmer. I argued before in this program that the president was an autocrat and that he had no other political vision except bringing an autocracy back to this country, because he does not have the socio-political basis to govern this country. The member from Suna West and his political party are buttressing the government to uphold peace in this country, if I can use that word. But the people of this country, from Kisii, from Nyanza, all the way through the Rift Valley to Marsabit, to Turkana, everywhere, the people of this country object to this administration. They reject their tactics of violence in this country. They also are appalled that the tactics that are being used in the West Bank and in the Palestinian territories by Israeli police, who train our intelligence officers to abduct people in this manner in this country, I think is a signature as to where we're going, Ayub. I put it to you.
But you said the autocratic aspect of the exercise of power by the president. But what about the institutions of checks and balances? That, for example, the president bears no prosecutorial powers, that he can't hold someone before a court of law, that he can't make arrests. So what then happens to our institutions? Is the problem the institutions or the occupants of these institutions?
Well, Mr. Gachagua learned very quickly what would happen to anybody who would not pick up or not listen to the telephone calls of the president. Very quickly. And he's an example to all other state officers that if you don't follow the president's word,
instructions,
there will be a bill sent there for you to be removed from office. The police commissioner, for an example, I know is a very decent guy. I think a very smart guy, probably one of the best police commissioners we're going to have in this country. But he also has to understand that his office is an independent office. And we in Kenya need to learn what's something called to resign. Because, you know, if you keep appointing people somewhere and they resign because you're not following the law. President Moi was once blithely asked a judge, kama nilimpigia simu mbona hakukataa? I still remember that. I was a young man then, and he had already retired. So I put it to you that, Ayub, this is a political science. The president is moving towards an autocracy. I argued here before that he wanted to extend his term. So he sent someone to send something called a trial balloon. Even his partners, represented here by the Member of Parliament for Suna West, were shocked at Parliament and were furious that Mr. Cherengai tried to introduce that bill. I mean, if a trial balloon, as you know, is something that tests the public's attitude towards a certain political issue. So that put to you, Mr. Ayub, is a slippery slope to a place called...
We'll talk about the time limit. We have time allocated for that to discuss what happened on Friday at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. I'll come to you, Honorable Peter Masara. But given what has transpired, Senator Richard Onyonka, how will the growing demand for transparency, accountability and good governance take place in an environment, in an ecosystem where Kenyans are forcibly abducted, some of them killed, and the whereabouts of more than 100 is unknown?
I would like to say that this is the deep frustration that some and many of us are going through. Just like Hashi has said, I believe that it is the responsibility of my political party leader, Honorable Raila Odinga, to pronounce himself on this matter. I don't think it's a matter that now we can look at and push under the rug. I believe that Kenyans of good faith, I believe that the church needs to look for their soft diplomacy so that they can then access President William Ruto and tell him many of these things have to stop. Other countries have gone through this, and at some point, he's going to have to turn around and bite them. The reality is Kenyans are peaceful. The reality, Kenyans want to be governed well. Kenyans believe in the success and growth of this country. Unfortunately, Ayub, the second point I would like to link up with what you're asking me or what you're saying. Again, I completely agree with Ashi. This symptoms of deep state autocratic narrative. This is what happens when Mexico started collapsing. Before the current regime came into power, you had people being abducted by drug lords and warlords. If you disagreed with people politically, you were picked from your house and you were taken over and the body is discovered. There were mass graves. This cannot be the template that our country can follow. I believe that our country can do better. I believe that the matters that Kenyans are raising about the governance of President William Ruto are not matters of life and death. I mean, we can stop corruption. We don't have to do all these funny deals going around. We can run this country and make sure our children go to school. We can afford free education. We can afford free healthcare. I mean, the narrative that is out here that certain individuals must be eliminated because they are critics of the government is because of weak leadership. Strong and philosophical, ideological leaders do not kill their opponents. They either persuade them, engage them, or discuss with them. That is what governance is all about, because this thing we call power is transitory. I mean, President Moi left, Kibaki has left, they both died. President Uhuru is there, he's a normal citizen at home. Ruto is going to go. if these are the things that are going on, where is the president going to be walking around, even to go and say hi to his grandchildren?
Exactly.
I mean, what history? The question asks, why is it so irrelevant to our leadership that for them history doesn't matter anymore? That your generations, that your friends who know you, that your children who you are leaving behind, that your community, that is the Kenyan public that has known you, how are they going to interpret your leadership by the time you're gone?
Okay, back to the same society where you have led. Yes, you had a point.
Okay, Aibu, what I want to say first, Hamed was right, but he must understand that now the leader of ODM is Professor Anyang' Nyong'o on acting capacity. And two, you must have it that ODM is still in the opposition. We are not in the government, to the best of my knowledge. And it's not a must that Raila must speak throughout. Raila has played his part, and he has really contributed positively towards the democratic space in this country. Whatever we are doing today was not possible before. But now we are able to criticize the government, and we'll leave this place, go to our vehicles, and go back to our homes. So things are not as bad as we want to portray it. This is the only country we have. I'm in the opposition, but I'm a Kenyan. When things are wrong, we have to say them. Then we come up with a way forward. Yes, we must come up with a way forward. One, the government must realize that it has come to a point where people must talk. It has come to a point where we must hold offices which are charged with check and balances accountable.
Okay.
And two,
yes,
you mentioned something about...
Before you move on, I'll give you the time to make that point as well, and give Ahmed the time to respond back. So the argument is that we'll talk about the Anyang' Nyong'o tenure and the clout in terms of comparison with Odinga's political clout. But let's hear what your colleague had said. Peter Pondo Kaluma is the lawmaker representing Homa Bay Town. He attended a church service with President William Ruto in Moiben constituency, the county of Uasin Gishu. And here is what the lawmaker said.
Naona hata nikiongea Your Excellency, bado wanauliza hii watu wamekuja kweli. Hatutoki. Mahali tumetoka si ndio mbali? Kutembea kutoka Sudan, Uganda mpaka ufike huku. Sasa kutembea kutoka Kisumu na Moiben. Rais hatutoki. Mine is to warn you to respect the presidency. We are searching for it. Hatujawahi pata sisi upande ule. And we will help you. And to caution you that people who come last like us. Si Biblia husema people went to harvest, lakini mwishowe hata wale walitoka nini walipata sawa.
Explicitly in black and white says we are in government, we are not living. Do you think so?
Can I respond to what he said?
You will respond.
Okay.
Allow him to
No. I think that was Peter Kaluma's personal statement. That's not the position of the party, to the best of my knowledge. You know, Ayuba, let us accept a fact that some people from some area part of this country have been in the opposition for a long time. So when people like Kaluma get opportunity to be in the speaker's panel, they are overexcited. Government is not about individual being given positions. Government, being in government is where the public, the general public can feel the benefits of being in a government. If you ask me today, is that though it's coming from Homa Bay, that is Nyanza, I'm also coming from Nyanza. We supported President William Ruto's regime when it was collapsing because we didn't have otherwise. We have one country. Gen Zs were already out. There are people who are supporting them and what? We agree with their demands. But there was no end game.
But did you have a collapse of the state or we had demonstrations?
No, that was also, you know, when Supreme Court is attacked, when National Assembly is attacked, and people are agitating to go to State House, my friend, what was remaining? In the history of this country, people have demonstrated, but never have we ever had an history of where a Supreme Court is being attacked. A National Assembly, actually we were saved by God's grace. that thing was gone. So in such a situation, you ask yourself, is it about being the opposition or is it about making the right decision? I can tell you without fear or contradiction that the decision by that time was the right decision to put this country back to the track. What we are now demanding is only that the government must now appreciate that Kenyans need to be governed in a proper way.
Okay,
because the reaction of the Gen Zs, the reaction of the Gen Zs was an indicator that things are not well. So a person who is elected by the people need to sit and introspect his leadership and utterances. We don't need people like Kaluma to talk on our behalf.
Okay, thank you. Because
that's the honest truth.
Thank you. I have some follow-up questions, Ahmed. When we get back from the break, we have an hour to also sift through other topical areas, and including the accountability that I'll be taking here on the broadcast. It's 1 minute past 7 here on the broadcast. Thanks for staying with us. This is Daybreak. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. We are back with more for the break.